Hi and welcome back to the castle. My name is Jeff. Online I go by Another Castle. If this is your first episode, I want to thank you for giving the show a go. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for being back here. 2020 was an interesting year, and I ended up taking a longer hiatus than originally intended. But we're back now. Look for episodes bi-weekly going forward. I already have some great interviews recorded and I can't wait to share them. Today's guest is Joey Freeze. For those that don't know him, Joey is a lifelong gamer, a talented musician, and a retro game streamer. I'm going to link his YouTube channel in the show notes, and I want you to go check out his retro compositions and the covers that he posts there. Stick around after the interview because I put Joey through the speedrun, our quick-fire question and answer segment. Joey, thanks for joining me today.
Sir, good to be here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions about your history with music and your history with games and how those kind of mesh together. Those both seem to be a big influence on your channel and the kind of content that you create.
Yeah, it does kind of get tricky trying to merge them together because sometimes you have people who are only interested in one of them. Then you start to think, do I need to make two different channels? But no, because there's no way you can grow them at the speed you want to. So it's like I just have to find a way to make sure everybody's happy, I guess.
Just before we started recording, we were talking about a recent stream that you did that was music. You were playing piano and singing, which was incredible.
Appreciate that.
I let my wife listen to Rocket Man. She's a big Elton John fan. And
Cool.
I didn't like the way she was looking at you, so we're not doing that again.
Well, no accounting for taste.
Looking at your channel, there's a lot of music content on there. There's stuff with you playing, there's stuff that you've produced or composed, chiptune soundtrack stuff. There's
Right.
gaming stuff. You have a lot of different channels working together. Is that intentional or is that something you're just kind of tinkering with?
I guess it's that there are so many things that I'm passionate enough about to want to create,
Hmm.
all the time. I feel like they're all somewhat valuable to somebody. So I just want to keep doing all of it. And I enjoy doing all of it. But the frame of mind I had was that I'm very into retro gaming music and I'm very
Hmm.
into playing retro games. So, okay, that'll be the
Hmm.
bridge then. Retro gaming will be the bridge between my music and the gaming. At the same time, there's all these things I do music related that aren't really related to gaming. So, I mean, I try not to put too much of that on my YouTube channel, but then when I do, it gets more attention than I thought it would. So that I'm like, okay, I guess I I should do more stuff like that. It's kind of tricky.
Looking at your YouTube content, if you could go back years and there's live performances that you've got. You've got an interview with your band on Fox News, which
Oh
kind of blew my
God.
mind when I watched that.
Oh God, yeah. That interview was a mess.
I was dying. I was like, holy shit, look at this.
Oh my God, yeah. That was that was something that they told me about. They told me that we were going to do it the night before.
Oh,
I
really? Okay.
I had no idea, and late the night before. You're talking about 10 o'clock at night. I got the
Hmm.
call. Hey, we're going to be on Fox News tomorrow. I went, oh, I guess I got a call out of work then. I had no idea what they were even going to ask me. We were promoting our album and at the same time donating the profits to tsunami relief.
That's right.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like nobody knew who the hell we were. So what profits are you talking about?
Well, that's kind of cool, though. Was it weird experience being on the news
Yeah,
like that, or?
as you can see, I wasn't prepared for it. If you watch it, I was not prepared at all for it. It's not one of my prouder moments because I'm stuttering. As Joe Pesci would say, I was a stuttering prick on that interview.
No, I don't think it came off as bad as you think you did. But
Yeah,
it was interesting. How long ago was that? It was like 10 years?
2005.
Oh my god, Jesus, 15 years ago now.
Yeah, I still had the Steven Seagal hair at the time.
Oh yeah, you had hair. That's right.
That's
That kind of
right.
blew me away.
Yeah.
But looking at your YouTube channel, the other thing that's going back into the history of it, you've been doing scripted comedy skits or shows. It's almost like Robot Chicken style, if that's
Oh,
fair to say.
are you talking about the Dreams cartoons that I made?
Yeah, but you were doing it before Dreams, were you
Yeah,
not?
I was. I was making Flash cartoons.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what it was. Yeah, right.
yeah, that was something I got into back in 2007, I think it was,
Hmm.
and it was because I started to get really into Jerry Jackson is the alter ego of David Firth, who makes the salad fingers.
Yeah, right.
He's that guy, and he had an alter ego called Jerry Jackson where he made these cartoons with really bad animation, and you had these two sides. It seems like it was split down the middle. The people who would critique his work on Newgrounds or whatever, you'd have half the people realizing that that's part of the joke, and the other
Right,
half of
right.
the people, yeah, the other half going, "What the hell is this crap?" But I said, "Oh, if this guy can make cartoons, then I can make cartoons too." I'll never forget how when I posted the first one, it got blamed so bad that it didn't even get to make it. It didn't even get to stay on Newgrounds. The very next cartoon I made was me bashing the animation, and then the reviews suddenly went up, and it was like, oh, he understands that it's shitty. Okay, now it's funny. It's like it changed the whole opinion of it.
There's a whole continuity to it too. You've got recurring characters, like Sonic is one of the recurring characters, and
Yeah, I had a lot of cartoons that were parodies of retro game characters, and then I had my own creation called the Undead Click, which was a bunch of ghosts that would haunt houses and do crazy shit when they're in the house. I still get messages from people that I don't know telling me to bring that cartoon back, which is so
really.
weird for me because I had no idea that many people were watching it. Going, who the hell is this person saying, when are you making another Undead Click? It's just too time consuming for me now. If people would sign a petition to get me to do it, then I would do it. Let's just put it
All
that
right,
way.
I'm firing up the petition. Change.org.
Yeah, I guess.
And then you started make a comeback when you picked up Dreams there, right?
Yes, because I knew that Dreams would make it easier for me to make those cartoons, and it certainly did. But for some reason, even though those cartoons look a lot better than the ones I made back in the day, I didn't get that much better feedback about them than I did about the old ones. So it's like, okay, I just kind of threw my hands up and went, okay, until I hear otherwise, I'm just going to stop this for a while. It was fun, though. I will say that. It was fun.
They're hilarious. They absolutely remind me of some of those shows in kind of the early 2000s, like I said, the Robot Chicken, or maybe a little bit South Park.
Yeah, I got into Robot Chicken, and I'm certainly a huge South Park fan. There isn't a South Park episode I haven't seen, so that's I appreciate that.
But I mean, all of these tracks, you've got the music stuff, you've got the gaming stuff, you've got this kind of comedy scripted stuff. It feels like performance has been a big thing for you, or creating maybe has been a big thing for you most of your life.
Yeah, a lot of wasted years. Let's put it that way. A lot of starving artist years, not having a real job and just
Yeah.
focusing on that.
Was music kind of the first thing you got into when you were young?
I guess I was into the cartoon thing when I was very, very young because I think
Hmm.
I remember even in kindergarten saying I wanted to be a cartoonist. The music thing kind of happened where I was so inspired by the video game music that I heard.
Oh, really?
That was my first and foremost, my primary influence as far as creating music was like 75%. I should say 75% Nobuo Matsu. Just the Final
Really?
Fantasies, just that guy is like 75% of my musical influences. And my dad, who's also a musician, he started to
Hmm.
become a touring musician later on in life. His two biggest gigs were he was the guitar player in the John Entwistle band, who was the bass player from The Who.
Oh, wow.
He was his guitar player for 10 years, and then he was also in the Alan Parsons Project for 10 years after that.
Really?
So, yeah.
Holy shit. Okay.
So he always had gear, a bunch of musical gear in the house, and the first thing I would try to do is sit down at his synthesizer and try to play my favorite video game songs. And that was back when it was just Cakewalk, 12-tone Cakewalk was the recording program I was using, and to this day, I still haven't stopped using Cakewalk. It's, everyone else is using BandLab and Pro Tools and all that other stuff, and
Yeah,
I
right.
just stuck with Cakewalk the entire time
It's
that
just
I
what
was
you know.
recording. Yeah, it's just what I know.
All right, so I can't bypass this though. I gotta know what's the best Final Fantasy soundtrack.
The Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is definitely the one that makes me the warmest and tingliest
Yeah.
because there are so many game soundtracks that just don't sound like that. The instruments he used and the kind of palette that he's painting with in that soundtrack is so unlike any other video game soundtrack. Some of the songs musically might not be quite as good as on the other Final Fantasies like Tactics. Tactics is
Oh yeah.
regarded as an amazing masterpiece soundtrack, but 7 FF7 will always have a special place in my heart as far as the one that influenced me the most, I would say.
You must be loving the treatment that they gave the soundtrack on the remake then, eh?
In a way, some of it kind of
No?
I mean, it is still Nobuo, but a lot of it is too modern for me, but then when I hear my favorite songs given a new take, I go, "Oh yeah, that one I have to download when the soundtrack comes out, and that one I have to download, and that one." But then there are times when I hear this more modern music, and I go, I think I won't download that one."
It's funny because the big jump, like Final Fantasy 6 to Final Fantasy 7 was such a jump
Oh yeah,
fundamentally in so many things, but to me the soundtracks between those two games are so close. They don't feel like it's as big of a jump that way.
it does. Like, what's her name's theme sounds a lot like Aerith's theme. Is it
Celis?
Celis? Yeah, her
Yeah, right.
theme sounds a lot like Aerith's theme, so that comparison is made a lot. But FF7 was actually the first Final Fantasy game I ever played, like a lot of other people here in the States. I had to go back and play the others afterwards.
I was a Final Fantasy nerd from the beginning. I
You
had
were? Oh,
the
really?
oh yeah,
Starting from what?
from the first one for NES.
Really?
Yeah, a friend that I lived nearby had the first one, so I got into it from there, which
Wow,
is a much different game.
you're an OG then.
Yeah, well, I guess the OG nerd. That's right.
Because I never even played the first and second ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They have a lot of remakes that kind of make the first one a little less clunky. That they're worth going back to, like for GBA and stuff like that.
I don't know though. I don't want to play RPGs anymore.
That different kind of content that you put out, like we were saying, the music stuff, the gaming stuff, the comedy stuff, and there's crossovers between all of those. So it doesn't sound like that's really. It's not a calculated approach. It's just you putting out everything that you're interested in. Is that right?
Yeah, I wish I could find a way to make it more calculated, but I can't. It's just the biggest way I'm kind of crossing them together is I'm trying to put out as much gaming music as I can when I'm working on music. I'm trying to fall within those guidelines as much as I can. Like I sought out a lot of the original sound fonts that were used to make a lot of these classic games. And
Hmm.
one thing that I've become obsessed with lately is creating new songs using only the sound fonts from a specific game, as if I was the one hired to do the soundtrack for that game and all I
Right.
had were those specific sounds.
Using the same tool set.
Yeah.
I see you linking them on Twitter and YouTube and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see them categorized as new Ocarina of Time music, new Final Fantasy VIII music, new Star Fox music, and all of the synthesizer sounds in the song will be only from that game, that I used. One of my favorite parts of last year for me was when I kind of tagged Grant Kirkhope in a post I made where I made a song using the sounds from GoldenEye. And I tagged Grant Kirkhope in it saying, yeah, Grant Kirkhope said that he made these synthesizer sounds when he had no idea what he was doing, if you can believe that. And then Grant Kirkhope ended up retweeting it and saying, I love this. It sounds great. And then
No
I
way.
got a ton of fucking traffic and I went, holy shit, that made my year right there. Because that guy is his Donkey Kong Country soundtrack, his GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, all that stuff. Him and Nobuo Matsu probably are the two main guys. And Koji Kondo's in there somewhere. But getting the nod from that dude made my year, let's just say.
Geez, I consider myself well researched, but I didn't catch that. How far back was that now?
That was something like 6 months ago, I guess.
So it sounds like the gaming came first before the music for you. So what was kind of the era of gaming that you got into when you were young?
First game I ever probably played was Super Mario Brothers on the NES.
Oh, okay.
I had an NES, got a bunch of NES games, the Ninja Turtles games, and then the Super Nintendo, Street Fighter, Super Mario World, all that other stuff. And then on into the next era of Nintendo 6. I had pretty much every system, let's just
Yeah,
say.
it sounds like yeah.
I had every system, but I was heavily into the Sega Saturn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's like one of those dark horse systems that I try to champion as much as I can, just because it had all the great Capcom fighters, like
Yeah.
arcade perfect translations of those fighters, and it had its own 3D fighters that were great. Just all this mishmash of game libraries that's really underrated.
What were the fighters on that one? Was it like Street Fighter Alpha kind of generation?
Yeah, Street Fighter Alpha, and then you had X-Men versus Street Fighter was
Yeah,
on,
right.
Saturn in Japan before it ever came here, but you needed a 4 meg RAM card, but it was arcade perfect when you had that 4 meg RAM card.
I forgot about the RAM card thing, kinda like the N64 there,
Yeah, with
with that
the,
little plug-in thing.
yeah, same deal, pretty much the same deal.
We used to rent the Saturn from a local game store.
Yeah, Blockbuster had that where you could
Yeah.
rent the system for 3 days, right? And 2
Yeah, yeah.
game? Yeah.
So we'd pick up Daytona, we'd pick up Virtua Fighter,
Yeah.
Bug before we knew what it was.
Bug is
We
great.
played
I
What?
I
This
I pl
terrible game.
I love it. I plan on making a video and a stream about it soon.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you if you've got a Saturn. I was trying to picture the shelf that you have in the background of your streams, but I can't remember.
I got one. I got the white Japanese one.
Wow, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that, like, from what you had when you were younger, or did you pick one
No,
up recently?
I bought it recently, actually, when I was younger, I had the American black one.
Yeah, right.
Oh. Oh, I need to go back out and hit the switch again. Oh, this is oh! It's beeping now. Oh, no, I can't die. I need a heart. No!
So are you much of a collector then? I didn't really put this on our list of questions, but do you do a lot of hardware collection?
I'm becoming one now, but it's really just for display mainly. Although when it comes to streaming, I really plan on mostly sticking to classic games. So
Mhm.
when I run out, I have to buy more, don't I? There's just a lot I haven't played. Like I just beat Link to the Past. I never played
Yeah,
it as
right.
a kid. So there's all stuff like that that's like must plays that I haven't played.
Do you have an arcade cabinet there?
Oh, I do. It's
Is that the Real Turtles arcade cabinet?
no, it's the arcade one up Ninja Turtles arcade
Oh,
cabinet.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's probably too hard to give you an answer on what my favorite thing in my collection is. To tell you the truth, it might be Fighting Vipers 2 on the Dreamcast.
Oh, wow, okay. There you
'Cause
go.
that's a game that not a lot of people know about, but, and most people only know the first one from the Saturn if they know it at all. But the second one on the Dreamcast is such a fun fighting game as far as just throwing people through things that they shouldn't be
Yeah,
thrown
that's
through.
right.
Yeah.
Do you play, Modern Fighters then?
The last modern fighter I played was probably Super Street Fighter 4.
Oh, yeah, okay. That was a good one as far as Street Fighters go.
Yeah,
Not that I know what I'm talking about.
when I saw Street Fighter 5, I just went, "It pretty much looks exactly the same as 4, so I don't think I want it," so I never jumped on it.
I'm getting into Grand Blue right now, but it's so much anime in it that's a little bit of a turnoff for me, but it's,
Is that like BlazBlue? Like BlazBlue and,
yeah, it's Arxis, it's the same folks that make
okay.
it. They made that Dragon Ball fighter that got pretty big there a couple years ago. Or the, what is the thing that they do? Guilty Gear?
Guilty Gear's great. Yeah, I love Guilty Gear. My favorite thing about Guilty Gear is how everyone in the game is named after, like, a musician.
Yeah, right. Oh, I was thinking about, you played Chrono Trigger recently, didn't you?
Yes, that was probably the first game I played on Twitch. That was back when I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I was thinking about the American translation of that because they've got Ozzy and Flea and Slash or
Yeah.
Magus's bosses or whatever.
The Japanese love doing that, as you'll see in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you've ever seen that, they love in lots of animes, really, but in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, every single character is named after a musician or a band or somebody like that. Yeah.
No kidding. It's funny to see that that kind of cross pollination of the culture, like the '80s and '90s, like rock culture in America, and how it kind of bled over that way. Eh?
What's funny though is that when you're reading the subtitles here in America, they change the names so that they're not copywritten. So even though you'll
Oh yeah,
hear the guy say Kira Queen, you'll hear him say Killer Queen, and the
yeah.
subtitle will say Deadly Queen.
Oh
So,
really?
so
And it's like a totally different thing.
they can't outright say Killer Queen because that's a Queen song.
Yeah, right. I wanted to go back and ask you about the games that you play because you were talking about how you play mostly retro stuff on your streams.
Right.
Do you play modern games when you're offline, or do you do any gaming offline at all?
The only gaming I do offline nowadays is when I'm playing. One of my favorite things to do now is play Madden while listening to podcasts.
Oh
And
yeah,
I put it on mute, and I just put a podcast on, and I just kind of zone out. But as far as my other gaming, I pretty much like to just if I'm gonna play it, I should stream it just so I have it.
yeah, right. I think a lot of the folks that I talk to are kind of my age range, so that we don't have as much game time. So my streaming time is my gaming time pretty much.
Yeah, even in the quarantine, that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you picking the streaming back up now that are you stuck home right now? You're not at work, are you?
I'm stuck home and I don't know when I'm going back yet, but I've been trying to stream every single day because what else am I going to do?
And you've been playing with the Final Fantasy VII remake recently. I've seen some great streams of that. You had your music stream that we had the other day that I thought was awesome.
Thanks a lot.
What's coming up?
Probably after I beat this Final Fantasy remake, I
Mhm.
think I have to finish Silent Hill,
Oh yeah, that's right.
which I was almost finished with right before the Final Fantasy VII remake came out, but then I said, okay, I have to take a break because I have to focus on this entirely. And Super Mario RPG, I haven't finished either.
I forgot that you were playing both of those. How
Yeah.
many games can you have going at once? That would drive me crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to stop doing that because then when I go back to a game I haven't played in a while, I go, okay, I'm here. How the fuck did I get here? I don't remember how I got here. I gotta watch my old stream to see how I ended up getting there, but that wouldn't happen if I would just stick to one game.
And all this science I don't understand. It's just my job 5 days a week. A rocket to man. A rocket man.
Do you see yourself sticking with the classic stuff rather than the modern stuff? I know you're playing Final Fantasy now, but maybe that's more of a callback kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the last modern game I played was probably it was Cuphead.
Oh yeah.
Although that's where I met you, by the way. You came into one of my Cuphead streams.
And you were probably swearing at it and cracking me up.
Oh, I certainly was. I was fighting what's her name, Sally Stage Play.
Yeah, oh my god, I think I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, although it doesn't have a very modern feel to it. It's a modern game just because it came out in modern times, but I love the simplicity of that game. So if it's a game like that, I'll probably play it.
I can't remember, did you get into Sekiro?
I did. Again, it was one of those games that was in my rotation that I got sidetracked from, but
Right.
I definitely loved how hard the bosses were in the game because it definitely gave me a lot of potential for yelling and screaming, which is always good.
Yeah, well, I feel like that and Cuphead are kind of games of the same style, really. There's stuff in between in Sekiro. You got to get to the next boss fight, but really, for me, it's that pushing up against this really difficult boss, having to do it 3, 4, 5, 10 times to beat it.
Right, that's why I kinda liked Cuphead better because there wasn't really any in between stuff, you're just getting right down to business. But, Sekiro is cool enough that I think I can be patient enough to get myself through it.
I hope you're not. It's better when you're not patient.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I wanted to ask you. I just learned this recently, but you work with Angry Video Game Nerd.
Yeah, that was a cool thing that happened because I became a huge fan of his in like the mid 2000s because a friend of mine knew that I had a 32X and that I liked my 32X and he said, "You got to see this guy's video. He made a video ripping on the 32X." And that was the first I ever saw the Angry Video Game Nerd and I said, "Wow, this guy is really funny." And then I started to just go down this rabbit hole of his videos and I started to get more and more into it. Even now, I love just looking back on that old stuff because it's comforting to me. Like when I have the
Hmm.
flu, I put it on and I just it makes me feel all tingly. But eventually, what I did was I saw that he was kind of using other variations of his theme song. So I said, you know what? Let me do a piano version of his theme song and just send it to him. I was out on the road with Badfinger at the time in 2008 when I got an email back from him saying, "Hey, this is great. I'm going to use this in an episode." And I went, "Holy
No
shit."
way.
Like that's what it's all about for me, just getting that validation from someone I respect that much. Those are the things I live for.
It
It's
must have been a
just
hell of a moment, yeah, when you get that message.
yeah, and then when I finally saw the episode, me and my buddy who turned me on to it, we were both watching it together for the first time, and he got to just sit there with me and kind of geek out with me, like, holy shit. And then he ended up using it again without even telling me. So that was a nice surprise. Because then I watched a later episode of his desert bus episode where he's contemplating his retirement, and it's supposed to be this big sad scene
Yeah,
then
right.
I hear my music again. I go, "Oh shit, there it is again," and I of course lost my shit again.
Yeah, and there is a copy of that up on YouTube that you can check out. That was getting huge numbers. It seems like there was a hell of a lot of views on that one.
Yeah, that's been very cool for me. What sucks is that when both of those videos first came out and he was asking me for my plugs, to put in the video, it was my MySpace page.
MySpace was big for music though, wasn't it?
Yeah, until it wasn't.
Until
So now whenever anybody goes back and sees that video, that's what they're gonna see.
we touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to ask you about what you think about modern video game soundtracks. Sometimes when I listen to new soundtracks, it's not memorable to me.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say, that it's not memorable. There's nothing from any of the modern games I've played lately that has stuck in my head except that barbershop quartet thing from Cuphead.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Well, as soon as I heard that, I said I wanna do my own version of that and, like, do all the different parts, but other than that, there hasn't been anything from a modern game that's made me want to download the soundtrack except
Mhm.
Sonic Mania, which is just new versions of the old Sonic tunes.
Yeah, right.
But it
Same with
seems
the
to
Final
me
Fantasy soundtrack.
exactly.
Yeah.
But with modern games, they go like the film score approach, where a lot of film scores are forgettable for me too. As much as I hate to say it, a lot of film scores are just forgettable to me. There's only a few
Mhm.
that really stand out and that I actually wanted to download and have in my music collection to listen to a lot, like Hans Zimmer's soundtrack from Interstellar. There's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
memorable melodies in there that you just want to keep going back to.
I think about Fight Club was a big one for me.
I don't really remember that soundtrack, but then again, I've only seen it once, so maybe I need to see it
Mm.
again. But It Follows, the horror movie It
Oh,
Follows?
yeah.
The guy, Disaster Piece, who did the soundtrack for Fez, the video game Fez, he did that soundtrack, which is why everything in it is memorable because he has that game soundtrack sensibility when he's writing music.
I had no idea. That's amazing. I can't remember the soundtrack from It Follows, though. It must have been memorable to you, though, eh?
Oh, very, because it's just it has that 80s feel that
Hmm.
just makes you really like, yeah, yeah, like, like you just feel comforted by it. But it's with these film scores and stuff like that they're using in these games to make them more theatrical. It's like the melody never stays the same, it's constantly changing, and when that's happening, it's impossible for it to stick in your head. Whereas back in the day, every song had a part A, a part B, and a part C, and then they'd come back around. Part A, part B, part C, come back around. Part A, part B, part C, which is kind of, I don't know if this is a fault of mine or if it's a good thing, but that's kind of where I'm at whenever I'm writing music these days is that I pretty much just have a part A, a part B, a part C, and then when it comes back around again, it's not that different. It's pretty much the same as it was the last time you heard it. I'm just trying to make it stick in your head and it become like an anthem. But that kind of worked to my detriment when I was, the website Overclock.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have all that collection of video game remixes,
Mhm.
and I had made a version of Vincent Valentine's theme from Final Fantasy VII
Oh, okay.
that I sent to them, and they basically wrote back saying, "When it comes back around again, nothing's different." And I was just like, "Well, that's just the way it used to be." So I, that's just kind of where my head was at. But they also made the mistake of saying, "Yeah, I know that you use the original Final Fantasy VII sounds, but you're not allowed to do that." And I said, "I didn't use them." So, like,
We just replicated them that closely, is that what it is?
I guess so, but that's not what I did. I didn't use any of those sounds, but the guy was so sure that I did that he said, "That is not allowed." And I said, "Okay, I don't know how much of an authority you are to say that, but you apparently don't know what you're talking about because
Mm.
I didn't use any of those sounds."
Well, I was gonna say those compositions that you do, what was the term that you used? The sound fonts?
Sound fonts. They were like very specific synthesizer presets that were created to be used on the synthesizers.
I mean, those compositions that you make and that you post, they very much could be in a classic game or like a 32-bit game or something like that. They fit very well that way. You must be taking that mindset.
Absolutely, because those were the pieces of music that made me feel the way that I wanted to feel when I was listening to that stuff.
Right.
and I think a lot of people feel that way too, but not big enough that it's going to be topping the Billboard charts anytime soon. But, there's a little niche community that I think cares enough about it.
Where can people find you online? What do you want to promote?
Well, probably my YouTube channel is where the most stuff is going on, so that would be youtube.com/JoeyFreeze. On my Instagram channel, you'll see a lot of covers that I do just when I'm sitting down at my piano and singing a tune. That's on my Instagram, which is at Joey Freeze Townsend. And my Twitter feed is my whole Twitter game is not as big as it should be right now, but that's where a lot of my retro gaming related posts are, and that's just at Joey Freeze.
Awesome. I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes there.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Are you good to stick around for the speed run?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. Thanks again to Joey for joining me today. Those clips that you heard were from his YouTube channel. One of them was a composition using the Chrono Trigger sound fonts. Go check out his channel when you get a chance. Coming up next, the speedrun. Alright, Joey, you ready for the speedrun?
Yes, sir. Hit me.
Alright, I got 10 questions here. I want the quickest answers you can come up with.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Alright, here we go. Alright, first question. What's the last live music show that you went to?
Last live music show. Was it Seven Dust?
Really?
That might have been the answer, but I'm probably wrong about that, but that's just the quickest one I could get out of my head.
Do you go to a lot of live shows?
You know what? I try to when I know that one of my favorite bands is going to be in town. I try to make an effort to see them, but apart from that, I'm not, like, going out of my way. Let's just say that.
Yeah, right. You're not following the Grateful Dead around?
No.
What's the worst Link to the Past boss?
The worst Link to the Past boss. Oh God. I think
you had some good ones.
I think it was the thing with it's all a blur. I've tried to put that shit out of my mind, but I think it's the turtle with the ice and the fire head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I watched you play that one. You did not have a good time.
No, I did not.
What was the first song you remember learning to play?
The first song I remember learning to play, I think it was Paranoid by Black Sabbath. On bass guitar, it was Paranoid by Black Sabbath, but on the keyboard, that was way younger. That was Mortal Kombat, the theme from Mortal Kombat.
Well, like the minute, like
Mortal Kombat.
Alright, what's the most overrated band from the 90s?
Gotta go with Pearl Jam.
Oh my god, you're breaking my heart, really?
But then again, I haven't deep doved into them too much.
What's the best summon in the Final Fantasy VII Remake?
In the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I only have 2 of them.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I guess I have to pick between the 2 of them. I guess I gotta say Shiva, but if you're asking me the old school game, it was definitely Hades was my favorite.
Was that Ifrit? Was it like the rename of that?
No, Hades was this guy that would come out of he was like a skeleton guy wearing a robe, and he had like a cauldron of stuff that would come out. That was my favorite.
Didn't take as long as Knights of the Round, I take it?
No.
What was the last movie that you watched?
Last movie I watched. That should be easy, shouldn't it? It was the usual, not the usual suspect. That was the one I was going to watch tonight. It was Natural Born Killers, I think, was the last one.
Really? Does it hold up?
I never saw it before.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
They go pretty hard in the stylized side of things.
The camp is a little camp.
Yeah.
What's
the best Ninja Turtle in the arcade game?
Donatello.
Okay, thank you.
Always
I was worried.
Has the longest weapon. Very important to the ladies.
What's got the best... Oh, Jesus Christ.
We can edit that out later.
No, that's staying in. What's the best video game soundtrack?
Turtles in Time?
Are you kidding me? Really? The best soundtrack?
It's a tie between Turtles in Time and Final Fantasy VII for me. I would have to say that.
Now that I'm thinking about it, Turtles in Time did have a pretty good soundtrack.
Killer.
Never
Just
comes
killer. Like, I would love to do that live with a band. It would murder if I did that.
Who was the strictest teacher that you had when you were in grade school?
Oh, God. The strictest teacher I had was probably this woman, Miss Nomikos. She used to yell and scream at me, but then she kind of had my best interest in mind, but she yelled and screamed at me a lot because I was terrible at math.
The tough love kind of thing?
Yeah, but there was one part of when I was growing up where she just walked up to me in front of everybody right before we went into the classroom, and she shook my hand, and I said, "What's going on here?" And then she turned to everybody and she said, "The only 100 on the math test."
Oh!
And I failed every other math test that year. I somehow passed that one test.
Oh, you cheated.
It was geometry, because I like geometry. That's
Oh,
right.
there you go. All right, you're playing a video game. The final boss is Alex Trebek. What's his finishing move?
His finishing move would definitely be to say, "Okay, good for you." Because that's when he's done. That's when he says to everybody when he's clearly not interested in what they're talking about. He just goes, "Okay, good for you." Okay, good for you.
What was that? That was from one of your videos, I think. You were talking about Alex Trebek as a boss. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it was when Link was talking about playing Jeopardy on the Nintendo 64, and he doesn't understand why you never fight Alex Trebek.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, well, Joey, you're too slow. But thanks for playing anyway.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna be, but I gave it my best.
Well, that's the show for today. Just a reminder, we're going to aim for a bi-weekly release schedule going forward. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite platform, and share this episode with your friends. You can also find me on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Twitch, all as Nether_Castle. We'll talk to you next time.